What's up, y'all? I am Joseph Dunham, Joe D. Welcome back to another immaculate episode of the Good Service Podcast. Thank you all for here for the first time, whether you found us through LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, friend of a friend, just a random recommendation. What matters is you're here, and you're here for a reason, to be inspired, to hear about the beautiful things that nonprofits and other service-based organizations, charities, fundraisers, foundations, and even some for-profit companies that just have a heart to serve and make their communities a better place. You're here because you are in need for some positive stories, some good news, some wholesome stories. And we're your source for that. So we thank you for being here. For our loving family, our Good Service Podcast family that continues to support us. Thank you for showing up each and every episode in the comments, in the shares, and the likes, and all the things that you are doing, the referrals, because that, of course, is how we find out about all these beautiful people doing beautiful things across this big, beautiful spinning rock. A lot of bigs and beautifuls there. But nonetheless, we are grateful for you all, and you are what drives us. So enough about me. That is us here at the Good Service Podcast. Let's dive into who we have on the other side of the screen, the other side of the airwaves, none other than Mr. Roger Roman. So on this episode of the Good Service Podcast, we're joined by Roger Roman, who's not just building tech, he's reshaping access to justice. Yo, y'all not ready for this conversation. Oh man. Roger Roman is the co-founder of LegalEase, a legal tech company dedicated to making legal services affordable and accessible, starting with expungement. From building AI startups at Rhythm Labs to investing in underrepresented founders, Roger is a tech entrepreneur with deep roots and impact. We're going to be diving into how LegalEase is flipping the legal industry on its head, and why access to justice is the next frontier of innovation. So, my brother, my friend, Roger Roman Jr., welcome to the Good Service Podcast, man.
I appreciate you for having me, Joseph. I'm happy to be here. This has been, we've been having conversations around this for the past few weeks, and I'm excited to finally get here and chop it up with you, man, and really just kind of, go into what we've built and a little bit behind the motivation and, how we aim to scale this thing and really help as many people as possible.
Man, it's a blessing and it's an honor to have you here. We're excited for the conversation, and like you said, it's been in the making. So what matters is we're here now. Lights, camera, action. Let's get into it. So,
yes, sir.
I always like to share how we found out about the organization and how we got to this moment. Roger, I'd actually love for you to share how you found out about the Good Service Podcast. I think that's a dope way to kick things off.
So I have a really supportive team, and part of our go-to-market is we wanted to get out, my co-founder and I, and evangelize and really talk about what we're doing. And so I charged my brother, my team member, Ryan, and my chief of staff, Faith, to go out and find podcasts that would be of interest to us, that, our audience might be out there, our ideal customer profile might be there. And yours was one of the ones that came back, the Good Service Podcast. I wasn't hip, just to be completely transparent, man. I wasn't hip. I wasn't a subscriber or anything like that. I will be now, going forward for sure. But yeah, it just seemed like a natural fit, man. And, your passion kind of just jumped off the screen in every correspondence. So wanted to make sure that we made your the Good Service Podcast a priority to jump on and spread some good news and the good works that we're out here doing.
Man, well, first off, you said shout out Faith, shout out to the team for doing their due diligence and showing up in a major way. I'm a little biased, we're one-on-one here at the Good Service Podcast. You won't find another platform and podcasts like us. So they did their big one for sure. Did their big one for sure. But yeah, man, from the moment receiving that email from her and then going, our back and forths and getting to this point now, it's just like, man, I've been looking forward to this. So that's how we found out about one another. And again, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, as we dive into LegalEase, I just at a very high level, and Roger's going to share with us even more, but their mission is to empower people to navigate the expungement process by providing AI-powered legal navigation tools, helping reduce those barriers to clearing criminal records, particularly for marginalized communities. So uh, we know there's a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of unfortunate laws and things that long before a lot of our time per state were locked in for us to not win and to be a part of this game and be at the same level. So this hits personal for me, and I can't wait to share some of that with everybody today. But yeah, man, let's get into it. Uh, Give us the origin story. You're the co-founder of um, LegalEase. You're handling a lot of things as a board member with Start With Today, Rhythm Labs. Again, like you're a serial entrepreneur in a lot of different ways, man. And would love to hear how you ended up here at LegalEase and having the mission and vision and making things happen for folks.
Gotcha. Well, to tell the proper story, right? To tell the real story, we got to go back. I'm not gonna age myself. I mean, it's cool. We got to go back about almost 20 years, man, to my days as a student at Howard University, right? You know,
Shout out.
HU, yeah, you know. So back at Howard, I was pretty active on campus, and I was involved in a lot of things. Newspaper. I did a little bit of activism. I've always kind of been impact focused, and I can credit my family back home in Chicago for that. Right before I even went to Howard, the plan that my family had laid out for me, my mother and my aunts and uncles, and my dad, it was that I was going to be an attorney. Right, that was the path that I was instructed to be on, and I didn't fight back to that. I thought, yeah, I could be an attorney and make a lot of money and be cool, right? So when I went to school, that was the path I was on, and I joined the mock trial team, um, which was actually at Howard was pretty competitive. I think we placed like second in the nation one year, right? We beat a lot of Ivies and other schools in that process. But while I was on the team, I met my co-founder, Lawrence. He was a couple of years younger than me, had came in. He was really passionate about law. He had come from a family of lawyers, whereas, I didn't have any lawyers in my family. So we kind of hit it off, not in any professional way, just as boys, right? He was like my little guy. I kind of took him under my wing, and he got to hang out with the upperclassmen and stuff like that. Tagging along. And then fast forward a few years later, we're both in the throes of getting ready to apply to law school. I was actually getting in the process of taking the LSAT at the time, and because he was a couple years behind, he wasn't as far along. But we as regular college students, man, we were out with the homies, man, and we partied. And one night he actually got arrested while we were out. He got arrested, and he was actually he went to the alley to relieve himself. I'll say it that way. And a police officer pulled up, and I think it probably would have been not a big deal, but if you guys meet Lawrence, he's an attorney, he's a politician, and he likes to talk. So I think he might have talked himself into being arrested that night, and I'm not gonna say whether there was alcohol involved or not, but yeah, he was arrested, and it was thrown out. It was a misdemeanor charge. It was thrown out. It was dismissed right away. I think if I recall, it happened on a Friday. By Monday, it was thrown out, and that was it. We laughed about it, we joked about it, and that was kind of the end of it. Fast forward a few years later, when he's in the process of applying to law school, he remembers that he has this thing on his record. And when you apply to law school, you have to kind of be transparent about all of your run-ins with authorities and things like that, right? So um, he had to come to terms with that. Like, I have this thing on my record. It's probably going to hold me back. I never even told my parents about it. So he had to go back home and actually tell his dad, who had been an attorney for 40 something years, like, Dad, I don't think I'm going to be able to get into law school because I have this arrest on my record. It looks pretty bad on paper, so on and so forth. And his dad said, it's not a big deal. Things like that happen. I wish you would have told me earlier, of course, but just get an expungement. And that was kind of the spark for him with expungements. And that was the first initial experience. Fast forward a few months later, another friend of ours comes up with a video game idea. And we all decided to go to California to build this video game and get into the tech space. We raised a little bit of money, failed miserably, like literally, like, just kind of ran out of money. I think we were there for quite summer. So 3 months, 3 months, we were building, we're running around trying to get meetings and stuff, and we failed. Um, and everybody kind of just dispersed. We ran out of money, and I decided that I was going to stay in California. I had been bitten by the bug. I had an excuse not to go to law school because at that point, I decided that maybe law is not for me, and I didn't really have a great way to break it to my family, right? So I just kept coming up with things to do before I actually went to law school, right? And this seemed like something that could it could be lucrative, right? It turns out it wasn't, and but I was hooked on just building tech businesses and just the world around it, and how you can build something that can scale to help millions of people, or millions of people actually use it. I was just fascinated by that. So I decided to stay in California. Lawrence was one of those founders with that startup, and he went back to finish his LLM at GW. But because he had been in that space, even though it was a short time and we failed, we learned some stuff, but we failed miserably. He would always, send me text messages like, "Hey, bro, I got this idea for a startup," or, "What do you think about this?" Or, "Is this something that could work?" And I would always be like, "Bro, stick to your day job,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
You don't want any parts of this. Leave this alone, because tech and entrepreneurship in general can be a roller coaster, right? It could be, it's a lot of lows. There's some high highs and some low lows. I think that's the best way to put it. And if you're not necessarily cut out for it, it can be devastating. I've seen it really do some damage to some people just trying to build something and not being successful at it. And I feel like I had the muscle to deal with that, right? But it would never stop, man. And I guess the bug had gotten him too. He would always talk about these scalable solutions and how there was so much redundancy in the legal space, and everything was super formulaic. But he was charging people a ton of money. So when he actually got out of school, I had kind of started cutting my teeth in the tech space. I worked in several different startups. Ended up building an agency where I was actually helping founders get their startups off the ground and launching on the market. So amongst my friends, I kind of became that startup guy, right? So if anything tech, anything around tech or building a tech business, I was a person that they would reach out to. And finally, as he graduated law school and he started practicing in small town Mississippi, he's from Canton, Mississippi, which is a small town about 30 minutes outside of Jackson. He said, I keep getting invited to these expungement clinics. And these expungement clinics are these pro bono clinics usually put on by, a local organization where they'll get 3 or 4 lawyers to come out, maybe some paralegals. They'll work for a few hours and they'll actually help people process their expungement petition, which is basically your expungement application. And he said, we get hundreds of people to show up. And because it's only a few of us, and it takes about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe up to an hour sometimes to work with each person, we don't get to see everyone, right? And we leave, and, it's like, I feel really bad because it's such a formulaic process, right? We just determine their eligibility, we fill out a form, send them on their way. It's like, there's got to be something scalable to this. And to his credit, man, he was very persistent. I was working on a bunch of other projects, as you said. Like, I always got some stuff going on, and I was building a different startup at the time, which he was actually an investor in. And he just kept peppering me about it with the text messages. And finally I said, look, okay, let's get on a call. Let's talk through it. I kind of got the pain points in terms of the onboarding and what was, the things that were really simple that we could emulate, right, and build on. And I built the MVP. And I thought that would be the end of it. I said, hey, here's the MVP. We put it on his website. He used it for a few expungement clinics.
Can I pause you real quick on something?
Yeah.
For folks not in the tech space, because I've been in tech sales.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What's the MVP?
MVP. So MVP is a minimally viable product. So it's the most basic form of what you're trying to build. If you take your idea, for instance, if you want to build a car, right? Before you build a car, you're going to build a bike. You know what I mean? You're going to build something that the most basic form of that. Maybe even just a push buggy, right, before you actually build the car. So it's really just to prove demand, right? So it's not going to have all the bells and whistles. It's not going to be pretty in most cases. I think this one was it looked good, but behind the scenes it wasn't much. But you know, on the surface it looked great. And yeah, so it's typical in tech because you're going to spend a lot of resources and a lot of money, and a lot of time actually building a product. You know, you want to make sure that if you build this MVP and you can test it out with a small test group, right? Um, you can prove demand, and then once you prove demand, you go on and you can raise funds and so on and so forth. So I built this MVP. At the time, I didn't think it was an MVP. I just thought it was a solution for my boy. I'm helping him out. And I thought that was the end of it. To be completely honest with you, I didn't think I would hear more about it. But of course, you know, a couple months later, I get a text like, "Bro, what you built is amazing. People are using it. Like, you know, these organizations are using it when I'm not even there. I'm using it for my clients because he said he gets a lot of inbound for people who are looking for expungements as an attorney. So it's like, bro, I think we got something here." And I'm like, of course you do, bro. Like everybody thinks they have the next idea, right? Um, and I did a little bit of research, and I was surprised to find that there was a huge gap in the market, and there was no one who was addressing this on a national scale. In that early research, I saw that there was 70 million people who have a criminal record. That's a third of the total population. Some estimates go as high as 100 million people um, who have been touched by the criminal justice system. And the one particular thing that I found that was really insightful for me was that it's not just people who have, you know, been arrested, been convicted, and done time, right? It's every interaction you have with a law enforcement officer, you know, whether you're charged or convicted or not, that's recorded, right? So if you're booked, if you go in and you take a picture, and even if they just write you a citation and you go away, that's going to be on your record, and it could possibly come up when you're applying for jobs, when you're applying for homes, when you're, you know, applying to volunteer for your kids school or something like that. Those things can come up, and I saw that it was a lot of people, you know, and I thought, well, maybe there is something here that we can build on. And it just so happened I was winding down time in my previous startup, and kind of phasing out my position there, and we got to work building, and timing, you know, just kind of worked out for us. And from there, you know, I said, hey, this is cool. What we have is great. It's proven that there's demand, but we hadn't solved the back end problem. You know, on the back end, Lawrence was actually still processing those expungements, right? He was still doing the lawyer work. We were getting people to come in and fill out their information online and do everything. We had cleaned that up, right? So we had taken what would usually take, you know, finding an attorney. First, you got to find an attorney, right? So that could take days, right? Because you're calling around, you're calling around. Some answer the phone, some don't. Some, you know, say they'll get back to you. Some want to charge you a consultation fee, right? They say, "Oh, I'll talk to you about your case for $150 or $300 and so on." Some want to schedule. Okay, yeah, you know, you call, you speak to the secretary. They schedule you out for 2 weeks, right? So we removed all of that and made it a really quick, you know, 10-minute process. 10-minute process. If you have all your information there, you just go on, you fill out the information. We had a quiz that we put as the first stage or the first phase, and it would help you determine if you're eligible. Again, but this was very rudimentary. It wasn't like very sophisticated at all. And then we had a form, and the form, question by question, you know, when were you arrested, misdemeanor or felony, did you pay your fine, so on and so forth. The same questions the attorney would ask. And it was cool for MVP. Like I said, it proved demand, but for us to build something scalable that could actually, you know, help millions of people and be able to grow and not just kind of be niche and have a lot of human power behind it. We had to, one, make it a little more secure, of course, make it a little more reduce the friction in the process, but fix that back end and automate it. So that's what we put our heads down and started doing. And it was at that time that, you know, we brought on another co-founder, my boy Rashid, who actually went to Howard with us as well. Rashid Ali, he has been working in cloud infrastructure and artificial intelligence and building those systems for different Fortune 500 companies, and even for the federal government in some cases over the last 20 years. So I reached out to him right away, leaned on that HU network, and I was like, bro, I got this thing I'm working on. Can you help me out? He loved it, came on board, and started building. And at that time, we were accepted into Techstars. So I'm not sure if
Nice.
your audience is familiar, but when you have in the tech space, there are these accelerators, right? So these are investment vehicles or organizations or companies, and they'll have cohorts. Most of them are cohort based, right? So they'll say, okay, applications are open for this cohort. They'll have thousands of applications come in from these startups. You apply. They may select anywhere from 5 to 10. They invest, right? So Techstars, they invested 120,000 in us. I think they've upped that now. I think they invest 220. And then you go through this 3 month boot camp, right? It's not called a boot camp, but I'm calling it that. It's more of a 3 month crash course in building, launching, and starting a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go through investor readiness, how to pitch investors, how to position your company, storytelling, who is your audience, how are you, how are you going to present your company to the audience, how are you going to go to market, what are your plans around going to market and sales and marketing and all those things. So went through that, and for me, it was actually my second time going through Techstars, right? So I went through Techstars with a previous startup. So I knew the value there beyond the money is very important. Don't let me poo-poo the money, right? That's extremely important,
Yeah.
especially for Black founders. But I knew beyond the money, right, there were a lot of things, you kind of don't know what you don't know in these spaces, right? And this was a legal tech startup, which I didn't really have any experience in. I had built consumer before, but this was a space where I was kind of green in terms of going to market. So I knew it was a good opportunity for us. We went through Techstars. While we were going through that, we were up in New York, actually, for the economic mobility Techstars cohort. Rashid started to build out our dev team. They started working on our 2.0, and this past July we actually launched that 2.0. So just to give you some context, the difference between our 2.0 and our MVP, we replaced that quiz, right, with a conversational bot, our AI agent Wilma. We've named her Wilma. Instead of you going on and taking a quiz to determine your eligibility, which is not 100% accurate, right? You have a conversation with Wilma just as you would have a conversation with an attorney, and she'll help you determine your eligibility. And once you do that, you decide which package you wanna purchase. We have two. We have a $150 package for a do-it-yourself. This allows the end user to be a little more hands-on. And then we have a full service package at $500 where we kind of carry some of the burden for the customer, and we're a little more high touch in that process. And once you do that, you fill out the information that's necessary. We generate that petition. You now have a petition, you have an order, you have everything to submit to the court. You have the entire package that an attorney will submit to the clerk of the court to start your expungement process. We launched in Mississippi initially, and the thing about this business that makes it unique is that every state is different. Every state is slightly different in terms of their laws, right? So we can't just launch this product and say, hey, here, take it USA. Every state we have to treat as its own little machine or workflow or engine, right? So we decided to start in Mississippi because my co-founder was there. Not only is he an attorney there, he's a state representative, right? So he's in the House of Representatives. He's pushing laws through and stuff like that. He had a little bit of insight. But Mississippi, the one thing that was particular about them and their process is they don't allow customers or they don't allow end users to e-file, right? So you have to actually carry your petition in. You can mail it in some cases, but you have to carry that PDF in, right? So for Mississippi, you generate the PDF, you can print it out. We even tested out some pilots where we would actually send you a hard copy, if you didn't have access to a printer. And we give you explicit directions on who to submit it to, your timeline, your fees, and everything else. In some states, right? So we did that. I'll go back. We did that in late July. And to our surprise, the demand was overwhelming, right? So I anticipated a few hundred people would be sign up in the first few weeks, right? Maybe we'll get 300, 400 people. That would be a success, right, in Mississippi. And to my surprise, we got over 3,000 from across the nation. Yeah, so it really forced us to really step back and see that we had built something that was in high demand and that a lot of people wanted it, and it kind of caused us to go back to the drawing board in terms of our go to market strategy. We had to speed that timeline up a bit. Even on social media, we were getting people from all over the country, whether it was California or Iowa or even Canada, right? People saying, "Hey, I need this product. When are you coming here? When will you be active?" Um, so we started building. We started building for these
Man,
newer
that's a
states.
blessing.
Yeah,
Woo,
it's a
that's so
blessing for
dope.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
so dope.
yeah, man. It's one of those things that we talk about good problems, right? And here we are, like, it was a good problem to have that so many people wanted this, and we started to build it. Now we're geared up to launch in 5 additional states over the next 4 weeks.
Let's
So
go.
we're heading to California, we're heading to Texas, Georgia, Illinois, and Maryland. And the unique thing about those states is that those states will allow users to e-file, right? So when we launch in those states, people can actually go through the entire process I laid out, same as Mississippi. But instead of getting a PDF or, printing out something, they can actually hit a button and file directly in our platform. They can pay their state fees there as well, which just makes it a lot more smooth process. So, yeah, it's been exciting, man. I know that was a long, long wind up to how we got here, but I just wanted to make sure the audience had the full story and knew the origin of LegalEase.
No, man, it's the full. That's what we're here for. The fullness, the realness, just the essence of origin in a lot of different ways. And so, uh, I'm grateful to, at a deeper level, understand everything. We had an abbreviated conversation of sorts. So I'm learning more that I didn't necessarily research or in our conversations get to understand. So we all got a Lawrence, man. We all got a, and sometimes we was the one that
Yeah,
night, So
absolutely.
hey, happy accident, right? Champagne problems.
Yep, yep, yep.
It's those things, and so it all in all is a beautiful story for servitude, and again for meeting people where they're at, especially in today's economy, with something like expungement, because you don't know what you don't know about this side of law. Like to your point, people can, if you're booked for anything, it's on there. So how do you get it removed? And so I think that's a great takeaway in this moment of, as you shared about the origin of everything and so eloquently getting us to this point for our listeners. We're like, I'm big on education and entertainment. This is net new for me, so I know for sure. And my
Absolutely.
brother's a lawyer. One of my older brothers is a lawyer, so he been doing the litigation, all that sort of thing for quite a while now. On the corporate side down in Florida, between Miami and Fort Lauderdale for 14 years, almost 15 now. So yeah, he'll be 15 years almost. Like, we don't really talk shop a whole lot
Right,
because
right.
it's a whole nother ball game, and I'm just like, you know, how's work? How's it going?
Right,
But I
right.
know I need somebody on the legal. That's the first call, because there was a time I needed somebody
Yeah,
because of the incident that I was in when I first moved to Georgia. Uh, High level, real quickly, I was hit with a DUI that never should have happened.
right.
It was more of it was profiling, 100%.
Hmm.
I had just moved here August of 2020. I worked at a company where I ran a team of consultants for different managed service projects and what have you. So think from staffing and building out IT teams and the projects, those sorts of things. And I stepped away from that company when I moved here. One of my consultants had a major project that he got brought on because he had been with this company for rounds and rounds and rounds, and this was their guy. And he's like, "Wait, I'm doing something at Georgia Tech. You're in Georgia now, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." We get together, had dinner, great dinner, had a couple drinks, nothing crazy. Uh, I'm in a part of the outskirts of Atlanta. I'm in Dunwoody, for those listening to know where Dunwoody
Okay.
is. And yeah, my GPS switches me up last minute. I'm like, all right. So I go hit the curb as I'm like U-turning around the median. Tire goes out. I'm on the phone with AAA. Hey, what's going on? You know, the usual. It's nighttime. I'm not getting out the car. Blue lights like 10 minutes later as I'm on the
Of
side of the
course.
road. You okay? Good. I'm great. You been drinking tonight? I mean, I had a drink with dinner. Yeah. Well, get out the car. And I'm like, oh, first off, that's not how that goes.
Right.
My older brother on my mom's side, his dad is a cop. I took a business law and ethics class. Shout out Tim Wood at the University of Dayton. Yeah, I know a little bit what I'm talking about. So I've only lived here for 2 months at the time, trying to get home. This dude's giving me the hardest time. So I'm like, all right, let me just knock out this sobriety test and he'll get on his way, get my tire fixed. Boy, was I wrong. But luckily, he had his body cam on, and the audio was working too because, yeah, again, I knew I knew my rights and I stood up for myself, but I still had to pay. I would much rather pay 150 to 500 versus the fans. I had to pay for the, just to make sure that this got done. A good friend of mine is a lawyer. I met him through the Bible study group that I'm fortunate to lead in. We were having this conversation. The system banks on folks not being able to pay that amount of money. And then you show up and that's when they start getting you and you go down that rabbit hole. So when I got my first role here since moving here, they called me about, hey, you have something on your record? I'm like, I'll gladly tell you what's going on. It should be gone.
Right.
Had I known LegalEase, back in 2020, would have been like, Roger, Lawrence,
of course,
what's going on?
Right,
but
right.
But
that's the number one thing that we've come into, just the knowing your rights. And I think people prey on folks, they prey on people not knowing. And not just the legal system, right? The attorneys, right? The people who are paid to translate and kind of be our representatives. And that's what Lawrence would also often speak to. He's like, I'm charging people $1,500 to do something that's taking me 15 minutes, and that just doesn't feel right. Doesn't sit right with me. Like, I'll take your money and I'll try a case, right? I'll do my research and prepare a case for you, man, and actually put some work in. But I don't feel right taking your money just to fill out a form. And like in your case, you were blessed enough to be in a position to be able to find that attorney to help you out. And even if it hurt you, right? Even if it hurt your pockets, which, it probably did, you were able to come up with the money to do it, right? And unfortunately, there are a lot of people, more than not, who can't do that. Not one, they don't even know where to look for an attorney. And they have already a natural distrust of the legal system and the whole process. So many times when they get these blemishes on their record, it just stays there. They don't even pursue, getting it off. They don't pursue any remedy of it. They just kind of go with the flow and feel like it's a scarlet letter that they have to continue to wear for the rest of their lives.
No, it's so true. It's so true, and it's one thing I'd love for you to share. And we're talking about access. And, I'm a firm believer. Cliches are cliches for a reason because they're tried and true, right? It's knowing is half the battle, and people usually stop at that. But the other half of that comment is the applied knowledge. So you put it into practice. But like, if you don't know or you don't have access, like, how are you going about then figuring out said issue and situation? And so I'm curious because as I did my research, I know accessibility is important to you all. So how are you ensuring as they're deciding to go with LegalEase and work with you all for this process, just the education piece? Like, how are we going to educate not just our community, the Black community at a grand scale, but everyone else who is in this predicament that has one of those 3,000 that reached out to you? How do we get them to get access and to understand these things?
Well, the great thing is, so this is a part of it. Let me just say that us, myself and my co-founder going out and talking to the people and meeting people where they are. This is the grassroots level of it, right? Where we're actually, we're going out as founders and we're spreading the word. And then of course, as a business, in terms of just business principles and, your go-to-market and your marketing is really important. The conundrum there is that, in the legal space, it's not typical that you see, Well, I mean, let me just backtrack. You're in Atlanta, right? You're in Metro Atlanta. I lived in LA for a long time. We all drive around and you see the billboard with the attorneys advertising. Accident, call me, right? In trouble with DUI, call me, right? And the reason that attorneys advertise that way, right? Which for most businesses, billboards, they might not be as effective, you know what I mean? And TV commercials, we all see the cheesy TV commercials with the lawyer standing up with the green screen and stuff like that.
They're all so bad. I've never seen a good one.
Yeah. But they wouldn't continue to do it if it didn't work, right? And the reason it works is because the legal space and just legal issues in general are so sensitive, and they're so important, and they have a huge effect on people that they don't necessarily just trust what has become now traditional. They don't trust the digital advertising outreach necessarily. Yeah. So seeing something that you scroll on Instagram is not as trustworthy as the guy who you saw on the billboard, right? Because for him to be on that billboard, he had to pay a sum of money. He had to be willing to put his face there. For him to have a TV commercial or her, I'm gendering here, but for that attorney to have that TV commercial, there's a little more trust there from the customer, right?
For sure.
So that's one of the challenges when it comes to building in the legal tech space. We can't necessarily advertise the same way that a typical tech startup would when they would focus heavily on digital, and push those ads out through Google Ads. Not to say that we don't do that, or we're not going to do that, or that's not going to become a part of our roadmap going forward. But as it stands to start, we don't have the funds to have a Super Bowl commercial, right? We're a small startup. So the biggest way for us right now has really been, one, for us to actually spread the word through talking to brothers like yourself, right? Jumping on a podcast. We had a few stories written up that got a little bit of traction in terms of people reaching out after reading the story. And then the other big part of it is partnering with these organizations that are on the ground that actually are, doing the work on a daily basis, right? And that's really how we got our origin, right? When Lawrence was actually volunteering for those expungement clinics that was led by some of those organizations. Partnering with them is a good way because, one, they have members, they have people who I don't know if the correct word is constituents, but they have people in their organizations, and then they have vehicles to spread the information, right? So if we can partner with as many organizations as possible going forward, especially when we roll out into these new states, we feel like we can adequately get the word out. And over time, the more that trust is built over time, the better it will be for us in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I just love that, and you are out there. You're meeting people where they're at. Like you've said it before in previous conversations, but also now, and I just know it to be true through, again, the research and strategy of guerrilla marketing, and for what it's worth, for my marketers and creatives out there that know the ad space and what that means, and so that goes a long way. That goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, and marketing is different now. Our attention spans are different. I remember a time, and again, I might be aging myself, but I remember a time where you could launch a product, and you could pay Facebook to market it, right? To advertise, and you could pretty much get a download per dollar, right? So if you put $20,000 into Facebook, you can expect to get 20,000 downloads of your app. And those times don't exist anymore, right? It's just that way. There's a lot of competition for eyeballs. Like we are all inundated with stuff, right? We all have enough stuff, and we can scroll all day. And there's several platforms that we can scroll on, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or it's a lot. It's hard. So we want to make sure going forward, and what we focused on in the past is that we're really delivering something and giving people some meat, and not just fluff, not just posting just to post, not just putting stuff up just to put stuff up to feed the algorithm, but actually really delivering on some quality information that can spark people. And then once they hear it, we're all very altruistic people at heart, right? And human nature is to be that way. So if you find out something that helps you, you're more than likely to go ahead and share that with people you know and people that are close to you and say, hey, this worked for me. You should try it too. So that's really, what we've relied on so far in these first few months. I think it's going to be valuable going forward. It's really building a foundation for us. And then, of course, we grow, we scale this company, and we can start to do some of the more traditional marketing stuff as we get more established.
Yeah, no, that's an exciting time. It's exciting, and I can't wait to see you grow. And again,
Absolutely.
just in my research, y'all, of course, I'll share it. Give Roger a moment towards the end of the conversation to share the links and everything, and it'll be in the write up. But just look at their Instagram, look at their website is very well done. So very clear. It's got testimonials. It's got all the things you need to know. So you're well on your way, man. You have a
Appreciate it.
in that, man. So congratulations in that. Just a random what's up with Willa? How did you come up with Wilma? Yeah. Well, how did you come up?
Yeah.
That's my girl's dog's name is Willa. But how did you come up with Wilma? Like the name for Wilma, and what's that experience been like? I would rather talk to a representative.
Most people.
But we're in the age now where
times are changing.
So
yeah. So I'll give you Wilma. So Wilma is a unique story, man. Again, none of this would happen without my boy Lawrence, my co-founder. And just his passion for law and him coming from a deep law family. When I say that, I mean, he's got like 9 relatives who are attorneys, right? So, and I might be lowballing that, but he's an attorney. His brother's an attorney, sister an attorney, dad is an attorney, so on and so forth. His dad actually had an assistant named Wilma, who had been with him for years, right? His dad had practiced for about 40 years. And he would always tell Lawrence, if I had 10 Wilmas, I could take over the world, right? Like if I just had 10 Wilmas, this would be, I can conquer this whole thing, right? And she was kind of that glue that really helped him build his practice and become a successful attorney. And even with Lawrence, as he was going through the process of becoming an attorney, she was always supportive and helpful for him as well. And she passed away a few years ago from cancer. So when we were, when we took down the MVP and, we were ideating on how to build this and what we should do. And I said, well, AI has come far along. We might be able to build a bot that can have that same conversation. Lawrence just blurted out, we should name her Wilma, right? And I was like, Wilma, why? You know what I mean? Because I wasn't familiar with, and he gave me the story, and I was like, of course we're gonna name her Wilma, bro. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that's how the name came about. It's really just paying homage to her and the influence that not only that she had on him, but had on his dad, and which influenced him to become an attorney, right? So it's really a tribute to Wilma. And we've trained and built Wilma to be that helpful person, right? Our name of our company is LegalEase. I was about to go to my hoodie, but for one day, I'm not wearing a LegalEase hoodie. I pretty much wear one every day. I got like a closet full of them, but
as you should,
right. So we named our company LegalEase, right? It's a play on the term legalese, lawyer speak, right? Where it's Latin. It sounds like a foreign language when lawyers talk, and you have all this stuff. But what we wanted to make sure was that everything was plain, right? Malcolm X always said, "Make it plain," and that's kind of been the motto that we've been focused on. And that's how Wilma talks to you, right? So she's not talking to you as an attorney; she's talking to you as a friend, and she's making stuff extremely plain for you, not complicated at all. Like you're having a conversation with somebody that's not an attorney, but still hitting on those important points. And to be completely honest with you, when we first launched, we first started testing Wilma out in Mississippi, we learned a lot, right? So we learned, of course, that people want to talk to a human. We already knew that, right? Speak to an operator, a representative, represent 0 right away.
Don't even take me 0 right away. Don't even.
Right. And to be completely transparent, like I remember we would do these discovery calls when people would use the platform, and then I would give them a call later and say, what'd you think about it, and how'd you like it, and what was the experience? And I remember one lady said, that bot you got is terrible. You know what I mean? She said it's terrible. And, it was, she said it just doesn't understand and this, and that. So we really had to focus on making sure that Wilma can have an actual conversation. It doesn't feel, even though you're talking to a bot, right? You're talking to an AI agent. Like, we don't want to fool anyone. We're not trying to, trick anybody, but the conversation can be natural and it can have a natural flow to it. And luckily for us, at the time, technology and the technology was growing around AI. And it's been getting it better pretty much by day. That allows us to build this conversational bot that we have today, that you can not only just chat with, right? You can chat and have a natural chat conversation with. You can also call, right? So you can call Wilma and have a conversation with her over the phone. And the same information you can get over the chat, you can get via phone. You can also text as well, right? So you can, if you're comfortable just shooting a couple text messages, she can have the conversation with you that way and give you the information that's pertinent to you in your case, and let you know if you are eligible. And even if you're not eligible, she'll say, hey, you're not eligible now, but you may be in 6 months or so, right? So how about you sign up and we'll give you a call back, or we'll shoot you an email when you're, close to that date, so we can help you through the process. One of the things I want to be sure to say too, before I forget, or I'm getting in trouble with our lawyers, is, we're not giving legal advice, right? Wilma's not, she's not a substitute for an attorney. This is empowering you to do it yourself, right? So, we all have the right to represent ourselves and figure stuff out for ourselves when we can. It's not the law doesn't state that we have to have an attorney, right? Similar to filing your taxes, right? We could all sit and do it ourselves, right? But it helps to have TurboTax. They're kind of guiding us through the process, and that's how we position LegalEase, and we position Wilma as a guide, right? It's giving us guidance as we go through this process and figure it out on our own. It's not us giving you legal advice. It's not us replacing an attorney. Of course, we know that some matters are a little more complex, and you might need some representation. And that's why we're focused on expungements, which we think is pretty black and white in terms of the resolutions and what's allowed. So, yeah, that's Wilma. And, I would say people have warmed up to talking with her. Some of those early conversations, I could go back and listen to, and, they were just hilarious, right?
Yeah.
But it informed us. It helped us really tweak Wilma, and, those natural pauses, right? One of the things that I'll mention is, you know, it's a bot. So, when we talk, we understand the natural pauses in conversation. The bot didn't necessarily understand that. So, if you pause too long or you were thinking, it would come right back. But are you there? Are you still there? Like,
Yep.
those things like that. Just tweaking those minor things to make it a more natural conversation. And I wouldn't say that we've I think we can always improve. I'm a father. I have 3 children, and we always talk about, there's always room for improvement. So the Wilma that we have today probably won't be nearly as good as the Wilma we have in a year. You know what I mean? And she's going to improve. She's improving with every customer that signs on, every piece of advancement that is made in the LLM or the AI space. And she'll keep getting better. And we'll keep getting better, and more people will be more willing to have a conversation with a bot. But I would be lying if I said that there wasn't some skepticism early on. There wasn't some reluctance to have that conversation, and people, even still, they want to escalate and speak to a human being in some cases. But as we grow with time, we're seeing more and more acceptance of people who are willing to actually just deal with the bot straight up.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes with the time, man. It comes with the time. Well, no, I appreciate the breakdown on Wilma, the AI aspect of it all, on top of your efforts, Lawrence's efforts, Rashad's efforts as well, as a team. Just again, being out in front of folks, making things happen. The consultations behind on the back scene after having the initial conversation and introduction through Wilma. So, man, that's dope. That's dope.
That's a big part. I think that's one of the things a lot of people, especially in this entrepreneur space, talk to those customers, man. Talk to those early customers, because they're going to see things from a point of view that you don't necessarily see it. And they're going to give you feedback that can help you improve your product or your service, right? So it's really important. I had to learn that, over time and with different businesses. You think you know what the customer wants, you think you know how to solve their problem, and you're going to build it for them. Having those conversations, those discovery conversations, are really, really instrumental, and they can help you a lot in the long run. Not to mention, if you're doing a tech startup and you're out there fundraising, investors want to know, what are your customers saying. They want to know, have you had those conversations. So I think, for your audience, anybody who's thinking to build something or want to start something, even if it's not a tech startup, if it's an organization or a cause, talk to those end users, talk to those people early, document what they say, because you
Yes.
never know. They might see some things that you're not even thinking about.
100%. 100%. I've been in the tech sales space, and I'm at a startup now. And I was talking to my director earlier this week, and you have a vision, whether it's a product or a service, but it so quickly, as you are finding what you just said, is, and what I told my director the other day, I was like, we let the people tell us what they want. Of course, we want to take things a certain way, but when it comes to having core products and, hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing this? Or we don't like to recycle and redo certain things, but people are like, hey, like, if this is what the data is telling you, if this is what people are saying they want to buy, give the people what they want.
Give them
Give the
what they
people what
want,
they want.
man. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
who,
absolutely.
who am I to tell you no
Right.
and not give you what you want because you've already been loyal enough to be honest with feedback early, often because of, you're a consumer of sorts, and you're getting an opportunity to have that FaceTime with the person that's making, or people group that's making decisions. So that just kind of, just the overlap there of having that conversation earlier this week. The Good Service Podcast, though, no, we ain't changed. No, I'm playing. Uh, Listen, y'all, we're moving into the next portion of the show. It's called In Good Light. So for our first time listeners, In Good Light is just a more fun, loving, and energetic way to get to know our guests. So we're going to dive in and learn, peel the onion back, if you will, for our guy, Roger, and learning more about who he is, where he comes from. Initially, Roger, when everything started with the Good Service Podcast, this was supposed to be like a quick rapid fire round, but it, good questions require good answers, and it was never rapid.
Yeah.
It's like, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, excited to dive in, man. Okay, I'm gonna start with some softballs.
Okay.
You're
Chi-town, West Side, West Side.
Chicago. So if you had to choose for the rest of your life, you can only pick one team from Chicago to root for. Would it be the Bulls, the Bears, or the Sox?
Man, that's so. If I want a lifetime of heartache, I'm gonna say the Bears, because they've been letting me down my entire life. Had some bright spots, but I mean, as much as we haven't had a lot of success recently, but I must say, a good part of my childhood is rooting for those Jordan Bulls, man, and those championships. So I'm gonna have to pick the Bulls reluctantly, because I'm a diehard Bears fan, man. I think it's an abusive relationship with the Bears. Whenever I get excited, man, they come and shoot me back down. So I'm holding out a little bit of. I'm tampering down my excitement right now because we've won a few games, and we have some hope. But I'm gonna say the Bulls, man, and that's a reluctant answer. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all are watching this, you can see it in his face. Like, you can see, like, he's like, I don't want to have to answer his question, but if I have to answer his question, this is the answer I got to go with. Because
Look, man, I'm gonna say the Bulls because the Bulls had Jordan, Pippen, that whole thing. They delivered some exciting times for me, man, and we had a few runs, since then, the whole Derrick Rose era and all of that. So it's been more joy brought into my life from the Bulls than it has been from the Bears.
yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, it's man, Derrick Rose so special. Like, what could have
Oh man,
been? What could have
I
been,
could talk
man?
about a whole podcast. So we could do a whole podcast about D Rose, man, and the lore that followed him before I ever saw him play, man, and just hearing about him when he was in high school and all that stuff, and for him to come play for his home team, I think all that is pretty special. The city loves him. The city
Oh
loves
man,
him. Yeah,
like, just the tribute last year. Like, they had a
yeah,
whole tribute a year before retiring his number, and just the way
yeah.
they did it, like,
D
Like,
Rose can walk into any neighborhood in Chicago, man, and be safe. No security, no nothing. He can have a bunch of jewelry on him, a bunch of money, and nobody's gonna bother him, man, because that's the son. He's the son of the city. So
man,
shout out to
so
him, man, and
special.
his resilience for sure.
So special. Okay. I know you're a sneakerhead, so give me your top 3 Jordans.
Okay, so I'm gonna go, and I might not. I guess the culture is changing a little bit, so I guess I'm an old sneakerhead, but I'm gonna go 11s. Then I'm gonna go ones. Then that one is tough. 11 and ones for sure. That's what I have the most of.
Yeah.
That
11
third one,
lows or 11 highs?
nah,
Cause
11 highs, man, for sure.
okay.
11, really just the bread 11s, but I'll do some Space Jams, and I'll do I'll do a couple different 11s, man, but really just the breads. And then, in terms of the ones, man, I've been wearing Jordan ones forever, and I've probably had almost every color that they've produced at some point.
Yeah.
I think that one might be the favorite overall, just in terms of having it. And then from there, man, it's a toss up, So I like different ones in that third spot. I like the threes. I know they might not be as popular to some people. Um,
Hey, you love them.
yeah,
Love,
I'm gonna
love,
take the threes.
love me some
I'm gonna say,
threes, bro. Love me some
yeah,
threes.
I'm gonna say the 11s are my favorite aesthetically, but I think I wear more ones, and then I'll go with the threes.
Yep. Okay, I see you. I see. Yeah, like, I'm 11s and threes, and it's 12s and 13 are battling for that third spot.
See, and that's what I'm saying. Like after you get past your favorite two, it's like, well, I like these. It depends on the fit and everything else. So
For
most
sure.
definitely.
My younger brother put me on the fours, and I'm like, I didn't think I would, and I'm like, wait a second now. You done? You got me.
It's funny how your taste changed too when you get older, right?
Oh,
The taste
no doubt.
changed a little bit because I didn't like 11s when they first came out, the black and white ones. I wasn't a big fan of them back then, to be honest with you. And they just grew on me over time.
Good. Hey, acquired taste. Acquired
Yep,
taste.
yep.
Who's got the best pizza? Let's talk Chicago pizza because I lived in Chicago for a little minute. A lot of friends that are still there. I mean, that's my favorite city in the U.S., especially summertime shy. It
Oh yeah,
doesn't. It doesn't.
amazing.
There's
Yeah.
no other place in America that you're not. You're not. So let's talk pizza real quick and wings because people don't know about the wings in Chicago too. I would say. So what's your spot for the families getting together, or the fellas get together, or you having folks in town? Hey, where we grabbing pizza at? Thin crust.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm sure that somebody has told you this before. So we do eat deep dish pizza, right? But deep dish pizza is like
It's like a
in a
pop.
year you might eat deep dish pizza 3, 4 times max, right? Unless
Mm-hmm.
you're just a big fan of it, right? Like my mother really loves it, so she might eat it a few more times than that. But everybody, we eat regular thin crust pizza for the most part. Pizza parties, weekend ordering pizza. For me, man, it's no question. Home Run Inn pizza is the best pizza I've ever had in my life. There is not a pizza that I've tasted, and I've been all over the country. I've lived everywhere. That's better. Have lived in New York. I went to the New York spots, and New York pizza is good, man. But it's something about that square cut Chicago pizza, man. I would say Home Run Inn for me is my favorite. It's been that way since I was a kid. It might not be as sophisticated as some of the newer spots. I know there are a lot of new spots or places that have popped up. Like I know people out south on the south side love Italian Fiesta and a few other
Yeah.
spots. But for me, man, it's Home Run Inn. It's very unique in terms of the flavor and the cheese and everything else. And then I would say for deep dish, if I was to get a deep dish pizza, I would have to go with Giordano's.
Mm,
Pretty solid, you know what I mean? I know Uno's is big, and I get Uno's when I'm out of Chicago, and it's good. Don't get me wrong, like it's solid. And Geno's and all that, Geno West or whatever, Geno East. Um, but yeah, if you had to tell me that I could only live with one pizza for the rest of my life, it would be Home Run Inn, hands down, by a mile, by a mile.
yeah. I'm not mad at that, man. I'm not mad at that. Next time you get home, wait, are you Are you still in Maryland or
No,
you're
I'm in DC. Like I
okay,
live in
DC,
DC.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So well next time you get home, I lived in the Irving Park neighborhood. So my
Okay.
Sheridan stop red line. Um Michael's, man, just a mom and pop. Get the thin crust, extra crispy,
Extra
spicy
crispy.
carbonara. Come on, so
And
like
see, that's where you find the best. Like, and I was gonna jump on the wings, man. And it's like, I don't know if I really have a best wing, bro, because I ate a lot of chicken wings as as a teenager, man. I remember my cousin would joke. He would joke. He would say, I could live on 6 wings. I could live on 6 wings and eat it every day for the rest of my life, man. Just give me some mild sauce. If I had to pick, I'm gonna say Uncle Remus, man. Just in terms of wings and mild sauce. Uh, that's top tier for me. But I like Harold's too. I'm from the West
Harold's
Side.
is classic.
There's all, uh, uh, Uncle Remus or Harold's. We got Harold's on the West Side too. Don't get it twisted. And the mild sauce is slightly different than what we get at Uncle Remus. But I'm gonna say Uncle Remus. And it depends, man. Sometimes I might want that lemon pepper. So I might get some wings from J&J's and knock those down. It's the wings are a little more of a toss up depending on what you're looking for. But if I say which wings with mild sauce are top tier, I'm gonna go Uncle Remus every day.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Harold's is. I'll never forget my first Harold's experiences before I moved there. My roommate and best friend from college, he grew up in Naperville, but his parents had a spot right on Michigan.
Okay.
Out late one night, and he loves wings. His mom's from Syracuse, so like
Okay. Yeah.
she
Yeah. Yeah.
he could make wings, and then just like it was always like wings galore. But it's like we need something. He's out late. We need something to tie us over and hold us down. And he's like, bro, I'm gonna put you on the Harold's. Man, I was like, what?
And that's
I
that's
moved
the
down here
thing,
to
man.
Atlanta, and there's a Harold's down the street, and I'm like, it's the same. It's the same chain, right? There's not a lot of Harold's, globally, but it's like this. Nah, give me the
It's
Chicago.
not the same. Yeah, they tried and brother opened one in LA too, and it was cool. It was good. It was reminiscent, but it wasn't it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about it. I just, when people do this thing online where it's like Harold's or Uncle Remus and they say, oh, Harold's is nasty or Uncle Remus, it's like, bro, let's be real. Okay, first off, you might have a preference, right? But Harold's is not nasty. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
Uncle
yeah.
Remus, of course. But give me some Harold's, bro. I'm taking it down. Like, I'm not going to,
Facts. Oh
I'm
yeah.
not
Oh
going to
yeah.
turn my nose up at that, man. Get out of here. You know what I mean? It's a Chicago thing, man, and interesting enough, I know this might be a crazy sidebar, but I went to Howard. I lived in DC for a while. I've been here, and they have mumbo sauce. We have mild sauce in Chicago. They have mumbo
Mm-hmm.
sauce, and I was surprised after all these years, man. I remember when I first tasted mumbo sauce. I tasted like my first weekend here. Somebody was like, "You got to taste mumbo sauce," and I remember saying, "This kind of tastes like mild sauce a little bit." It was inspired by mild sauce, man. I didn't know that. And that's a claim to fame that I can lay on everybody out here in the DMV when they talk about
Yep.
y'all got that from us, brothers.
Yep.
I know that's a sidebar. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just wanted to put that out there.
It's got everything to do with it. We talking about you, man. We getting
I
to know
love
you.
DC mumbo sauce. My kids love it, man. But just know that mumbo sauce is a child of Chicago mild sauce.
Man, who inspires you more, Jay-Z, Fred Hampton, or Issa Rae?
Ooh, whew, that's a tough one, man. So
You can only pick one.
I'm
Again,
nowhere near as creative or funny as Issa Rae. That's just not my bag. Um, Fred Hampton, man, I grew up with people who knew Fred Hampton in real life. Like my teacher, sixth grade teacher, she grew up with Fred Hampton, and just a lot of connection there. And him being so young and it being Chicago, and that story I've known about the Fred Hampton story for as long as I can remember.
yeah.
And it's extremely inspirational. Jay-Z, man, just the music, that's kind of been part of the theme song, as I've grown up and entrepreneurship and chasing this black excellence, right? Which is, it can be problematic if we delve into it. Um, so that's tough. I'm gonna knock Issa out, and I'm only saying that because I'm nowhere near as creative and brilliant as she is. Um, and if I come down to Fred, just a good question because it's a dichotomy of my, me and my outlook, right? So you have the impact where I want to help folks, and that's really ingrained in my DNA. Has been there, right? I want to improve the lives of the people who are oppressed. But also, this is a capitalist country. This is a capitalist society, and if you don't got money, you can't eat. You know what I'm saying? You can't keep the lights on. And Jay-Z drives that, right? He drives that willingness to put yourself out there and build something in terms to gain. So if I had to pick one, man, I'm gonna say Fred because I think everything I do, that layer of really trying to help people better their lives, not only help myself but help the people close to me and help people who look like me and people who don't look like me, right? And just really improve the world for folks. That's in everything I do, even in my business endeavors, right? So I'm starting this tech startup that could be worth billions one day, but the ethos of it is actually helping people better their lives. So I'm gonna say Fred, man. But shout out to Jay-Z, man. Jay-Z is a good role model. I don't agree with everything, man, but Jay Hove is he one of those guys for real, for sure.
Cerebral. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I mean,
absolutely. Big
uh,
fan, big fan.
I love that answer, man. Hey, I get into it with my research. So I was like, I've been waiting to ask that question. There's a
That's a
few on the
good one, man. That's a good one because it's right there to balance, right? Like you're an entrepreneur. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. You know what I'm saying? That's come on. You don't know what you're doing. Like all that is in my. That's a part of me as well. But I think even deeper than that, I think the stuff that Fred was focused on, and just the fact that he was so young doing it. I started out young and being in the streets and being active and really fighting and being vocal. And now I am, I'm twice the age he was when he was murdered. You know what I mean? And still doing that, and him still being an inspiration. That goes a long way.
No, man, it does. I was having a conversation with my grandmother the other day. I'm grateful to have the relationship I do with her and that she's still here. It's my dad's mom, and she'll be 81 soon. And just all the things, you know. I mean, I call her every morning for 5, 10 minutes. Basically, however long she wants to talk, we'll talk. Usually about 5 minutes, and called her this morning. She's, I'm about done with this phone and this, and that, and just, she always is curious about how to figure out things in this life, and I'm
Mm,
curious, like, what was it like growing up seeing these things? I'm like,
right.
what your life was like during, because I mean, I at a young age, and I love history. So getting to learn about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, James Baldwin, like the list goes on and on of the early
Absolutely.
activists that the people that were behind the scenes. Yes, like the front lines, people know, but there were so many more, warriors and soldiers
Yeah.
and true activists that were doing things. And I told her, I'm like, that's a big part of the reason why I want so much, so I can give that much more. This is not about me. I just want to serve, pull people up, pat them on the back, point them in the right direction. So, man, like, in the Good Sirs podcast is just one of those major ways of doing that, and I just love that you have that about you too, bro. So I was excited to
That
ask
was a
that
good
question.
one. Good one. That was a good one.
Excited to ask that question. Among these next few, these are staples for us. So, I'm gonna first have you finish this sentence. The world would be a better place if.
People just loved one another, man. Just love your fellow human being, man, and the world will be a better place. Um, yeah, I think if the same love that we can show to our immediate family and our blood, if we extended that to everybody else, a lot of the issues, a lot of problems will be gone, right? Um, Focus more, and I'm delving into it more. I'm giving you more of an answer, but if we focus more on the things that made us alike as opposed to things that make us different, I think the world would be a better place for sure.
Massive, beyond whatever night and day is, like the 10 times above what night and day is would be the difference in how we work together,
Hmm.
and how we make this thing work for everybody, ensuring everybody eats because there's plenty.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, we love that answer. Uh, where does your heart to serve come from?
I think I think it's a mixture of one, my parents, right? So, um, I come from a hardworking family. My mom and dad, they didn't come from, wealthy families or anything like that. And they were able to scrape by and build a solid life for me. And, with myself and my brother. And my father actually passed when I was 9 years old. And just kind of seeing my mother step up and go from being, where my dad was the breadwinner, but both my parents worked, but my dad made more money than my mom, and he was kind of the leader there. But when he passed, she had to step up and get into that role. Um, and just their hard work, both of them combined, I think, really told me that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve things. But they weren't necessarily, my parents weren't activists or anything like that. They weren't out here starting movements. They were just taking care of their family and living their lives. But in doing that, my father was the guy who, the other kids in the neighborhood, friends of mine whose dads maybe weren't around, like he was the one who would be there and, kind of giving advice and being supportive like that. Also, his mother died when he was very young, right? And he stepped up, and he had 9 younger sisters and 2 brothers, and he was the oldest. So him and my aunt, and she's passed on too, bless her soul. They kind of stepped up and helped take care of their younger brothers and sisters, right? And my mother witnessed that. They were high school sweethearts, so she was there, and she kind of became a part. So it's in my family, helping and not being selfish and really just kind of working for the betterment of the whole has always been ingrained in us, because we've all leaned on each other to get by, the same way that my aunts, those same aunts, who my dad helped raise, they stepped up when my father passed away, and stepped in for me, right, in a big way. um, and then I think them too, like I'll put a pin in that and say, my aunts, my dad's sisters in particular, have always been about service. They're very active in their, they were growing up, they were very active in the church, and, they were always doing something for the community, right? I had an aunt, my aunt Josephine, who passed, Josie. um, she would cook dinners for the homeless, you know what I mean? And on Sunday dinners, and she would be passing out plates out of her beauty shop, right? So there goes the entrepreneurship and the
Service.
altruism kind of mixed in there. And I think she was a big influence on me as well. But they were always doing something, whether it was, Christmas baskets or turkey giveaways. We were always volunteering. Like I would volunteer for stuff I didn't even know about. I knew I had to be there, right, as a kid, and
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
up and doing these things. So I think it was I couldn't put my finger on one thing that kind of put that into me. Um, but I think it was just the nature of the environment I was raised in, the people around me, my folks, and yeah, then just beyond that, I was already open to it, and just reading more as a teenager, and you know, kind of mimicking my heroes, the Fred Hamptons and the Malcolm X's, and those people who actually fought and put their lives on the line. I think that's what really drives it for me.
For sure. Man, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. A blessing to be. I say this all the time. I remind my mom often, I'm so close to greatness. When you really take a step back and look at your life objectively and the people in it, from family to friends to business, Lawrence, you're close to greatness. You are
Mm-hmm.
1 degree away, an arm's length, a call away from greatness, from your family, and seeing that. And I don't believe people do that enough. Or if they do reflect, maybe not in that sort of way. And I would encourage people, like, really think about how great the people are in your life at the things that they were blessed to do and the things that their hearts have called them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just it will blow the top off for folks, I think. And so I just love that you're close to greatness in a lot of different ways throughout your life.
Appreciate it.
That's a blessing, man. What is your definition of good service?
That's not, it's not even. I was gonna say it's a hard question. It's not. I think good service is any service, anything that you can do to improve somebody's lot, right? To improve their lives, and it could be a small improvement. It could be a big improvement. It could be complex. It could be simple, right? It could be as simple as, I mean, even, and this might sound trivial, but holding the door for someone,
Real.
giving somebody words of encouragement or speaking to someone. You never know what those words can do to that person. It's been plenty of times for myself where I got, some nice words or some positive words from someone. And, maybe I was in a down moment, right? Maybe I was on this roller coaster, and this entrepreneurship roller coaster. And, maybe I was at the down point, you know what I mean? And um, their words really sparked me or gave me some extra motivation or encouragement. So I think, anything that you can do to improve or help someone be happy or better their situation, that's the definition of good service. And that can be a range of things.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I subscribe to that. I will subscribe to that. You're the architect of growth and good. Where'd you come up with that?
Oh, man, I don't know, man.
That's fire. I'm like, ooh,
I
that's
don't even know, man. When I was building so it came to me when I was building a website, and I was just trying to figure out little quotables, man. I'm a rap guy, you know what I mean? So it's always trying to, get that tight metaphor to put in there or whatever. And that one just came to me. When I first heard the term, and this was maybe 6 years ago, maybe even longer than that, I was at a CES in Vegas, and a guy, I was working with a different startup, and we were building something to help people send money back and forth across the globe. But one of the people who came up to our booth was like, you guys are doing good and doing well, right? You're doing good and you're doing well. And that always stuck with me, right? So trying to find words, something to play on the good and the
yeah.
well. I think that kind of summed it up. I'm all about building, whether it's building a company or building an ecosystem or, building out a community. Like that's kind of been the underlying thing of what I do, right? Once it's building, it's up and running. I'm usually looking for the next thing to build, right? So the growth part is that, and then the marketing background and always trying to grow audiences and things like that. And then, like I said before, man, it wasn't by any intent. I didn't set out to say, okay, I'm going to start businesses that have this underlying ethos of doing good. It's just how it happened. Pretty much every business I've started, minus a few, but I would say the majority of the businesses I've started have been built on helping people and improving something that or giving people an opportunity to do something that they couldn't do before or was really hard for them to do before.
Yeah. Beautiful. Ah, so good. Yeah, I thought that was like, I'm like, oh, that's a bar. The architect of growth and good. I'm like, I gotta inquire about how. My last question. I'm a double barrel, so back to back. But you're a father of three. Um, what's your favorite thing about being a father? And then, what has being a father taught you about yourself?
My favorite thing about being a father is watching my children like learn something. Or get better at something, right? Just watch them kind of learn these life things. And you know it because you're an adult, and you want to kind of give it to them, but sometimes you got to let them learn and figure it out. And I think that's great, whether it's schoolwork or, arts or sports or whatever it is, just watching them see themselves get better and see that satisfaction they get from that, even though they might not ever tell you, right? They might not ever verbally, but you see it in their eyes, right? Like they've picked something up, and you see the excitement when they, when they want to demonstrate that for you. I think that's the that's the most enjoyable part of being a parent to me, right? Watching that and grow. I think the one thing, and I'm still learning with this, man, is just this is a part. I guess this is the second part to that answer is just the patience, man. It's really taught me to just be patient and, take time for what it's worth and really cherish the time, the present, as opposed to thinking about work and thinking about tomorrow. Understand that they are going through their own growth process and they're going through this and on their terms, and it's going to be a little different from you. And, you had a 40, 30, whatever the number is, you had a head start. So things that they don't know, and you got to be a little patient sometimes. And, just telling them one time might not be enough. You know what I mean? You might have to tell them 2 million times, but at some point, at some point they'll get it, man. I think about,
Yeah.
I mentioned before, my dad passed when I was 9, man. So I've been here 3 times as long, without him as I was with him. But some of those things that he, some of those sayings and some of those lessons that he taught me in those 9 years, they stick with me to this day. You know what I mean? And I pretty much think about a lot of them daily. So, just recognizing that even though they're not They might not be listening right now. They might be giving me some pushback right now. I just got to stay persistent and keep going. And when they're 30, 40, and they have children at all, they're going to think back and say, my dad did say that all the time. Maybe this is why I do this thing now, when they start to reflect on their own lives.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's so beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that with us, man. That is just a big part of what this thing is about, is family.
Yep.
And just pray for your protection and prosperity, all the things for your family, your kids individually, and you all as a collective. Man, that's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That just, hearing those answers, man, it gets me more fired up. Fortunately, we got to turn it down just a little bit. Before we go, as it sounds, it's the closing of this amazing, another immaculate conversation with a dope business mind, a heart of service, a heart of gold. My brother, Roger, I'm turning everything over to you. Please share. How can the people get involved?
Yeah.
How can they follow you? What does that look like?
I think the best way for LegalEase, right? I think the best way to get in tune is to go to our website, LegalEase.com. So it's legal, LEGALEASE.com. I'm gonna spare you I'm gonna spare giving you all of the handles we have for our social media because they're not succinct, right? So we got different handles on Instagram, so on and so forth.
I'll put it in there. You'll find it.
But
I got you.
If you go to the write up, you can follow us on social. We're active there. Go to our website and you can get most information there. You can send us emails if you need to get in touch with someone, or you just have some questions, or you can even start chatting with Wilma right away and just kind of figure out if it's something that's for you or when we're going to be active in your state. In terms of me, man, I'm active on social media. I'm on social media. I'll say that. I don't know about active. Just don't have a lot of time, but I'm on social media. But I think the best place to find me is probably LinkedIn, right? Just search me. That's where I'm the most responsive. That's where you'll get a response. That's where I am most times. Just Roger Roman on LinkedIn, and we'll put that in the write up as well, so you guys can connect with me there. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about not only LegalEase but just breaking into tech, or how to build a business, how to build a startup, how to go about getting funding and things like that. Please, I take. It might take a while for me to get back to you. It might take a little bit, but I'll get back to you, and I'm always happy to help.
Amazing, brother. Amazing. One last thing from you. Closing remarks. Any last thought? Any last lyric that's your favorite, that keeps you grounded, that's a mantra? Like anything that you want to share one last time, or first last time with the guest here at the Good Service before we close this thing up?
I would say for most people, just the one thing I would like to leave people with is be resilient, man. Just have some resilience in your life. Whatever it is you're doing, be passionate about it. Put your all in it. Don't let people sway you. Don't let situations sway you easily. Be very headstrong in what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Because again, it's your life. You got to do it. Figure it out. And just because someone else might not believe in you, or they might not have faith in you, or they don't have faith in themselves, you shouldn't let that affect you. Go for it, man. To the marketing part, right? Just do it, right? Just the Nike, just do it, or Old Sprite, obey your thirst, right? That was my yearbook quote in high school. Obey your thirst, man. I took that to heart. Like if you really want to do something, you want to achieve something, really go out and do it, man. Obey that thirst and go get it done.
I'm with it, man. No, well said, brother. Well said. Again, we loved having you here at the Good Service Podcast. You representing LegalEase as a co-founder. Shout out Lawrence. Shout out Rashad. Shout out Faith. Shout out the team. A lot of love, admiration for you all. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to see how things continue to evolve. We're locked in, Roger. So you let us know at the Good Service Podcast how we can continue to be a partnership. And some of the wind beneath your all's wings as you're making legal help accessible for a lot of folks that need it in particular areas. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, whether you watch this, you listen to this, We don't care. We're just glad that you're here, right? So thank you for liking, thank you for finding, thank you for watching and listening, all of the things like that. Again, you are why we are here, and why we're going to continue to serve, and how we're going to continue to serve um, the four corners of the world. So keep referring organizations and amazing people. Keep listening, keep watching, keep sharing. There's a lot of just tough things going on in the world right now. And what better place to just share beautiful messages and uplifting messages, because there's that much more good going on. We just got to make sure that we're spreading it and we're sharing it. So with that being said, y'all know who I am, Joe D. I love y'all. Until the next episode, be well.
Peace.